We told Kimmy to wait.
Yeah.
Somebody told Kimmy to wait.
Yeah.
I think somebody referenced the statute.
That we have, if we've got.
And Kimberly's gonna do room, right? Oh, there she is. She's coming. She's right there. I'm gonna go ahead and call the council meeting to order. Miss Kimmer's coming in. I just saw her a few minutes ago. But, oh, she's right behind me. I knew she was coming in. And at this time, I'll ask Councilman Brown to have the invocation for us and to pledge allegiance to the flag. Let's all stand. The first thing I'm gonna ask you to let's do a moment of silence for we lost one of our top officers, Larry Johnson, one of the captains. So let's take a moment of silence for him. Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, please look down upon the town of Somerville tonight. Help us to make good decisions that will be beneficial for all concerned. Please protect our town and surrounding areas from the pending stormy weather.
Please bless our frontline police and firefighters and continue to protect them. In your holy name, we pray. Now to the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For proclamations, Mr. Jackson. And can I have Lisa from the audience or public? Whereas American Indians, Alaskan Natives, and Native Hawaiians have played a vital role in the life of our state, city, and country, and their many contributions have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of South Carolina. And whereas there are two tribal communities who are located in Somerville, the Wasmasaw Tribe of Varnertown Indians and the Natchez Cuso Indian Tribe of South Carolina, organized and incorporated in the state of South Carolina as body politic, state recognized, and who maintain the history, culture, lifestyles, and unique heritage of South Carolina Native American people. And whereas historic Native American Indian missions and schools were established to serve the Native people, such as the St. Barnabas Indian Mission, Ridge School, Red School, Four Holes Freedom Indian School, and the Varner Indian School. And whereas we honor individuals such as Catherine Kitty Springs, the only woman of Native American descent to have a monument erected in the state of South Carolina in her honor, Dr. John Glenn Creel, the first Native American doctor to serve the Native communities, and Geneva Varner Clark, who proclaimed her heritage and culture and is documented at the United States Library of Congress. And whereas Native American South Carolinians have served with valor and distinction in wartime, and their artistic, entrepreneurial, and other skills have truly enriched our heritage. Now therefore does Ricky Waring, Mayor of the Town of Somerville, hereby proclaim November 2022 as Native American Heritage Month. Next, Brad Mallett and any small business owners. Whereas the town of Somerville celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees, and they're responsible for 62% of net new jobs created since 1995. And whereas 79% of consumers understand the importance of supporting the small businesses in their community on Small Business Saturday, 70% report the day makes them want to encourage others to shop small, independently owned retailers. And 66% report that the day makes them want to shop small all year long. And whereas 58% of shoppers reported they shopped online with a small business, and more than 50% reported that they dined or ordered takeout from a small restaurant, bar, or cafe on Small Business Saturday in 2021. And whereas the town of Somerville supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore does Ricky Waring, Mayor of the town of Somerville, hereby proclaim November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday.
I'd like to say thank you on behalf of all the small business owners of Somerville, to our town board for always showing support. And as a small business owner myself, a place where everyone kind of gathers, it's a blessing to have that support. So without it, we couldn't succeed. Thank you.
We appreciate what y'all do. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to thank Mayor Pro Tem Jackson for taking my place tonight. I had surgery on my foot and it's kind of hard for me to walk. And for our recipients, we congratulate you and appreciate for what you do. And we thank you so much for being here. This time we'll move on with our council meeting.
Next is approval of minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes of the previous council meetings of council meeting of October the 13th, 2022, special council meeting of October 21st and 27th, 28th, 2022, and the standing committee meetings of November the 7th, 2022.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on these minutes? If not, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. The ayes carry. This
Mr. Mayor.
All for public comments.
I do not have anybody signed up for public comment for items on the November 10th agenda.
Okay, no public comments concerning this meeting. We move right into petitions.
Petition by Everett Asbury Knight Jr. to annex Dorchester County, TMS number 144000070, 10.86 acres located off of Greenway Boulevard, currently zoned R3, Single Family Attached District in Dorchester County, and will be zoned GB General Business upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. This would be in Council District 5. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on October 17th, 2022. The Planning and Development Committee voted to move the item to full council with a recommendation for approval at their meeting on November 7th, 2022.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, happy birthday.
Thank you.
I would move that we accept the petition and give first reading to the ordinance.
I'll second that. And again, Mr. Mayor, happy birthday, as well as to the United States Marine Corps. Is their birthday as well. A little bit older than you are, but still looking good.
Thank you. Okay, you got a motion and a second. Any concerns on this? If not, signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to annex Berkeley County, TMS number 23200021993 for a total of 7.76 acres located off of Mary Mead Drive and Farm Spring Road, currently zoned PDMU Planned Development Mixed Use in Berkeley County, and will be zoned GB General Business upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. This is in Council District 2.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion. We give second and final reading to this ordinance.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. The ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to annex TMS numbers 232-0001-024 and 025, 1110 North Main Street, and 232-0001-029, 127 Berkeley Circle. 3 parcels totaling 1.388 acres, currently zoned GC General Commercial and RNC Rural and Neighborhood Commercial respectively in Berkeley County, and will be zoned GB General Business upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits, and this would be in Council District 2.
Mr. Mayor, I'll also make a motion, we approve second and final reading of this ordinance.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, the ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to annex TMS numbers 14506040006 Stallsville Loop and 14506050008 265 Stallsville Loop, 2 parcels totaling 1.73 acres, currently zoned CG General Commercial in Dorchester County, and will be zoned GB General Business upon annexation into the town of Somerville's municipal limits, and this would be in Council District 3.
Motion,
Motion for second and final reading?
Second.
motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I don't want to be out. I do want to say happy birthday to you also, since everybody else did. But I voted against this the first time. I am going to vote for it this time, but I hope that what they're building there, they will look at their design again and see if there's any way that they can have a exit on Stallsville Loop and not just have an entrance and exit on Bacon's Bridge.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I will agree with Ms. Gardner Smith on that.
Okay. All right, all in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to annex Berkeley County TMS numbers 221070513 and 133, lots 31A and 31C for a total of 20.833 acres, located along Brighton Park Boulevard, currently zoned PDMU Planned Development Mixed Use in Berkeley County, and will be zoned PUD Planned Development District upon annexation of into the town of Somerville's municipal limits. And the existing next in PUD shall be amended to include this acreage and the additional land use intensities, and this would be in Council District 2.
I'll make a motion that we approve second and final reading.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, the ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance approving a proposed Fifth Amendment to the Nexton Development Agreement by and between Nash Nexton Holdings LLC and the town of Somerville for that certain property known as Nexton, located along Highway 17A North Main Street in the town of Somerville, South Carolina. Amendments include additional acreage, amended PUD, and amended exhibits.
I'll make a motion, we give second and final reading to the ordinance.
Second,
Motion made and second. Any discussion on this? If not, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Voting aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed likewise. The ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to grant a quitclaim deed of 4,038 square feet, 0.09 acres to CVEA Somerville 3 LLC in the amount of $2,031.09.
Mr. Mayor, I would move second and final reading of the ordinance.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, motion made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of this signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to grant a quitclaim deed of 1,990 square feet, 0.04 acres to Dust Off 22 LLC in the amount of $1,133.73.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move second and final reading of the ordinance.
Second.
A motion made and second. Any discussion? Not all in favor of this, signify by raising right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to approve a major PUD amendment to the Knightsville Track PUD, AKA Sweetgrass Station, TMS number 144010004 and 14304000012 to allow the improvements to Orangeburg Road at the site entrance to be delayed until the completion of the 100 dwelling unit, with the added requirement that once phase 1A 64 units is complete, the project cannot move forward without the SCDOT encroachment permit for the improvements on Orangeburg Road. This is in Council District 4.
Move second and final reading, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? All in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 13701060001, 333 Old Postern Road, approximately 1.16 acres and owned by the town of Somerville, from PUD Planned Development District to GR2 General Residential, 2 units per acre, Council District 2.
Make a motion, we give second and final reading, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Second and final reading of an ordinance to rezone TMS number 13700000002, Old Postern Road, West Richardson Avenue and Parsons Road, approximately 29.51 acres and owned by the town of Somerville, from PUD Planned Development District to PL Public Lands in Council District 2.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we give second and final reading of this ordinance as well.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second on this. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
First reading of an ordinance to amend the town's official historic district map to add the property designated as Dorchester County TMS number 13701060001, 333 Old Postern Road.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this first reading.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? All in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carry.
Resolution to authorize the Commissioners of Public Works of the town of Somerville to submit an application to the South Carolina Water Quality Revolving Fund Authority to finance the cost of wastewater treatment plant upgrades.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carried.
Resolution for town administrator to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Dorchester County for animal control services.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Motion made, and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes carried.
Resolution setting property and liability deductibles with the South Carolina Municipal Insurance and Risk Financing Fund.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve this resolution.
I'll second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, ayes carried.
Discussion of observed paid holidays for town of Somerville employees.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a couple of comments. The reason that we're considering this is we had some of our employees approach the administration about a possible paid holiday for Juneteenth, the Juneteenth celebration. So we had some research done by our administration, and we're trying to stay within a certain limit as far as the number of days that we are able to allot for paid holidays. And currently, we have 12 days that we give for paid holidays, and I think the county gives 13. But I'm gonna give you a little bit of information, then I'll make a motion, and hopefully we can get something done. Juneteenth became a federal holiday, National Independence Day Act in 2021, making it a federal holiday. That means it is established by law like holidays including Labor Day, Memorial Day, New Year's Day. Juneteenth is the 11th federal holiday in the United States. As with other federal holidays, banks, schools, government, companies like post office are expected to be closed. Since Juneteenth falls on Sunday this year, many workers in states that recognize the holiday will have Monday the 20th. Of course, Juneteenth means June the 19th, but this will be Monday the 20th off from work. So some will instead observe it on Friday the 17th. How did Juneteenth come to symbolize the end of Black enslavement in the United States? Juneteenth commemorates June 19th, 1865, when Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and read a federal order abolishing the institution of slavery in the state. The people of Texas are informed in accordance with the proclamation from the executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former master and slaves. And the connection therefore existing between them becomes that between employee and hired labor. The moment was significant. Texas had been the last of the Confederate states in which enslavement continued. Despite President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation to end slavery in 1863, and despite the end of the Civil War on April 9th, 1865, Texas was the most remote state in the Confederacy, and it took Union soldiers until June to reach Texas in sufficient numbers to announce and enforce the federal order that ended slavery there. The 13th Amendment, which added the abolishment of slavery to the Constitution, passed Congress in January 1865, but wasn't ratified and adopted until somewhat later. I've talked to a couple of the council members about this, and I think Lisa sent out a text to get some feelings on this. And we talked about what seems to be the way that the council is leading is toward what's called a PTO, personal day off, or a floating day. And before I make a motion, Lisa, would you do me a favor and explain to the council and the mayor the floating day so everybody understands what we're talking about?
Certainly. The floating holiday would be treated much like our vacation leave and our sick leave. It would show up on your paycheck. Excuse me. So if you are an employee who's eligible for, say, 40 hours of annual leave and 20 hours of sick leave, you would also have a category called floating holiday pay, and you would have 8 hours of that that would show up on your paycheck. And an employee would be eligible to use that 8 hours to celebrate anything of their choosing. It would be a paid day off, essentially. The overall number of holidays that the town would observe as official holidays would still be 12, but then there would be this additional floating holiday that somebody would be able to take whenever they chose to take it, but it would not result in the town closing down.
Thank you.
One question, you said, added to, there'll still only be 12 holidays with the floating day included.
No, it would be 12 official holidays and an additional 1 day floating.
And
If I understand it, Lisa, for when you and I talked today,
Mhm.
the floating holiday is not a complete shutdown of the town hall.
That's correct, or the town at all.
Whereas with the 12 days that we're doing now, it's a completely shut down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it gives us a little bit more flexibility as far as the budget
Mhm.
and making sure that we're not spending money that we don't have to spend.
Yes, sir. And the other thing, it would not accumulate like our sick and annual leave. You would have that 12-month period to use it. If you didn't use it, it would go away. And then another 1 day holiday would show up for your next.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna keep it to 12.
Yes.
well, my preference would be to keep it at 12 and I don't, looking at this list of 12, you know, my thought was that perhaps we take that day after Christmas and off as an official holiday where the town hall is completely shut down. If someone has Christmas plans, of course, they can choose to use it as their 8 hours out of the year. I look at this year, it's not as bad as it could be because Christmas Eve happens to be on a Friday. And we observe Christmas Day on Monday, the 26th, and the day after on Tuesday, 27th. But there can be days, depending on when Christmas falls, that, you know, we're shut down, that, you know, our citizens can't access downtown hall for 5 days at a time. And then we have a New Year's Day holiday right after that. So I like the idea of the floating holiday. There's at least one other federal holiday that we don't shut down on, and that's Columbus Day. There may be another, I'm not sure of the federal holiday schedule. It always catches me by surprise when I'm trying to get into the post office and it's some holiday I didn't know about, but I like to keep the number of days, holiday days to 12. I do understand that if we kept these 12 and just gave employees that 13th day, that, you know, town hall could still stay open, but my preference would be to find a way to give employees an optional holiday to take. It could be Juneteenth, it could be Columbus Day, it could be the day after Christmas, but that on those optional days, town hall would be open and available, accessible by our citizens.
Much of the public sector has, generally speaking, gone to 2 or 3 or 4 what I'm gonna call floating holidays. And the reason for that is, one, many people are working on that day. But it allows people to celebrate holidays that are of importance to them. Having said that, I wouldn't say that I'm totally against even the 13th day, but I don't think today is the time to look at it. Now, let me explain that. I think we're looking at a period of time where our ability to compete in our local area with other towns such as North Charleston, Mount Pleasant, and Charleston is getting more and more difficult. And I think we're going to have to look at a more complete total package of how do we and what do we need to do as a town? And this will probably, I think the administrator and the HR director, and including the rest of staff heads are looking at some recommendations as to how do we implement some things that would allow us to retain employees. So I think my recommendation now would be to not add a day to keep us where we are. Whether we change a floater or not is I think is fine. But I think this could be part of going forward. How do we look at employee retention? in terms of our competitiveness within the Charleston area. So I'm in agreement if we keep it at 12. Turning one of these others in a floater, I could pick 5 or 6 of them because just because of what we did where I work. But have Lisa and Chris and the rest of staff come back with their recommendations on what we need to do going forward to help us be competitive.
Well, I do concur with you on the part you mentioned about being competitive with other municipalities in the state. That was part of my notes. You know, if you recognize Juneteenth in some form or fashion, the town can send a message to our employees and citizens of the town that we care enough to consider giving Juneteenth a holiday status. You know, we live in a region that's growing and we are competing all the time when we hire employees. And employees look at the income that they're going to get, they look at the benefits, they look at the entire package. So I think it's important. I'm going to make a motion, and if the motion gets a second, we can talk some more. If it fails, then fine. But I think we need to try to move forward on this. I think we've gotten about all of the information that we can see because Lisa and Chris did a lot of research on this. And I think all of us have probably looked at it and Googled it to see what Juneteenth is all about. So there's a lot of information on the internet that's free that you can find out what you need to know about it. But anyway, here's my motion. I make a motion to offer our employees a personal day off or PTO day to celebrate Juneteenth or a floating day, if you so desire. Each employee could choose the day that might be different from another employee's day. This approach could not require that the town be shut down. That's my motion. Do I get a second?
I'll second the motion. And I may have an amendment. I'm looking now at the 11. It looks like there's 11 federal holidays. Christmas Eve is not a federal holiday. The day after Christmas is not a federal holiday, but Columbus Day is, and Juneteenth, National Independence Day is. I think those are the only differences. I would like to see the number of holidays stay at 12. And for that reason, I would move to amend your motion, Mr. Brown, to allow for Juneteenth, National Independence Day, Columbus Day, and the day after Christmas be floating holidays that employees could pick any of those 3 to be their 12th holiday time off.
Mr. McIntyre, excuse me.
I'll second that.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand. I'm not sure I followed what you were saying. So I'm not disagreeing. I just want to understand it.
The motion to amend would be essentially to remove the day after Christmas as a mandatory holiday and include it, Columbus Day, and Juneteenth, National Independence Day as optional holidays that our employees could select any of the 3 as their 12th holiday of the year.
And that is versus just having a floater that wouldn't shut down town hall. Well, those wouldn't shut down town hall either necessarily, unless enough people decided to take the day. So.
And I'll be also, as one other thing that I meant to say is that I would want this to be effective for 2023. We already have our 2022 holidays. They're announced, they're scheduled. Juneteenth is all, and Columbus Day have already passed. So for this year, the day after Christmas would remain the 12th holiday, but for next year, the 12th holiday would be, employees would have a choice of Juneteenth, Columbus Day, or the day after Christmas.
So that's another amendment to the amendment.
To have it effective, another part of my amendment, to make sure that it's effective for 2023.
And so
I'd like to say this about closing town hall the day after Christmas. we've been doing this for a long time now. And, you know, Christmas holidays, we just keep a skeleton crew here anyway. I'm not talking about just since I've been mayor, but for years, we've been keeping a skeleton crew here on the day after Christmas. Nobody comes in here and, most of your builders and your construction people shut down. I mean, they're not working. So the people that the customers that come into town hall are few and very few. So it's not like shutting town hall during a busy time. It's probably cost us more money to keep town hall open that day than it does to close it. It's not a, you know, to me, it's just not a day that we need to worry about, you know, spending money, costing the town taxpayers money by closing town hall. We're probably costing them money by opening town hall. We discussed this a good many years ago and found that, you know, leaving it open. I know when Jack Wilbanks was here, he would let people go home at 3 o'clock, you know, and he would stay here by himself because it just wasn't, there wasn't anybody coming in. And I know that's still gonna be the way it is now, so I don't think y'all ought to be concerned too much about the Friday after Christmas being a holiday.
Mayor, if I may speak, this year's already taken care of. It's passed. Why don't we defer this to our retreat? Because particularly in view of what Charleston and North Charleston did, we need to do a major redo of our employee benefits and salary, not a holiday. And since it's already done for this year, let's wait till we do our strategic planning and budgets and talk about it then.
Well, we've got two motions.
Yeah, we got a
A
motion.
motion to amend Mr. Brown's motion. And then we have Mr. Brown's motion. And the only distinction, I think, between my motion to amend and Mr. Brown's is that if under Mr. Brown's motion, if it's not amended, it will create essentially a 13th holiday day. But the employee could pick any day that they wanted in the year, if I have that right.
Yeah. Well, I voted against the 12th holiday, so I'll vote against the 13th one also.
And I do understand what you're saying, Mayor Waring, about the skeleton crew during Christmas, but there are gonna be years where if Christmas Day is on a Friday, we'll be closed on the Thursday, the 24th, Friday, the 25th. Of course, we're always closed on Saturday and Sunday. And to also be closed on the 27th, when Lisa did the research for us, Charleston, North Charleston, Mount Pleasant, nobody, if I'm not mistaken, nobody else recognizes the day after Christmas. And this would allow people who do have employees who have holiday plans, if they don't have enough personal leave accrued, whatever, they could use an extra day as a that floating holiday, if you will, as a way, you know, to continue to have Christmas plans or holiday plans that we, you know, they need to be on vacation or wherever.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask a question, Miss Lisa, have you had an opportunity to discuss with all your department heads this topic and gotten feedback from them on what would help them from a recruitment and retention standpoint?
I have not me personally. Lisa's probably talked to them, but I haven't talked.
I have, Mayor, at our last department head meeting, we did discuss this and I did let them know that there has been some consideration of removing one of the current holidays to replace it with the Juneteenth holiday. And I think the general consensus I got from the department heads is that they did not want to see one of our existing holidays removed, that they felt like it might, you know, cause more harm. than the good of being, of adding the Juneteenth holiday. So,
Okay.
that was
Thank-
the feedback I got.
Okay, thank you for that. I have a couple of items that I feel like need to be said. Number one, Juneteenth is a very significant day in our history. And it is something that I believe should be celebrated and should be honored by the town of Somerville. How that's done, I'm not 100% sure, but it should be recognized. So thank you, Councilman Brown, for bringing that forward. The discussion has seemed to be more arbitrary. I'm sure everybody came in here with a very clear understanding of how they wanted to approach this topic, but it seems so arbitrary that I'm not in favor of voting for anything that I've heard thus far until we hear from Lisa and the department heads a strategic recruitment and retention plan like we discussed at the retreat, our strategic planning retreat. I think pausing and doing this the right way is the best opportunity for us from my personal perspective. So please don't take my nay vote against the significance of the holiday or anybody's idea. I just think we need to be more strategic here.
I agree, and I'll make a motion that we postpone this and make it an item on a greater pay and benefits plan when we discuss it. It's already, we don't need it till next year. And the one thing I don't want to do is add 8 hours and then take it back because we'd like to do something else. So if we leave it as is, it will do nothing till next year. And when we do a budget retreat, I mean, we're going to have to very soon start talking about how we're going to keep our people. So
I'm not against that, Bob. What do we do with my original motion? Never called for the vote, it wasn't.
We never voted on anything. I can withdraw my motion to amend. And we can hear a motion to table or to postpone. But I would point out, and I mean, Mr. Parker may have a different perspective and I'll defer to him. But a motion to postpone needs to be to a certain date. Otherwise, then it's just a motion to table, which is a motion to kill. I would suggest, it's not an amendment. I would suggest that we postpone it to the December meeting because we publish our holidays for 2023 before the beginning of the year. And we can change it year by year by year, but our employees need to know, I think, by January 1st, and the public needs to know by January 1st, which holidays we're going to observe for 2023. So having said that, I withdraw my motion to amend.
Okay, if we set a definitive date for December, then I will withdraw my initial motion and wait for the council to meet and discuss this, and other benefits included in December.
In that case, I would move that we postpone the vote on this matter until the December regular.
I'll second.
Do we have time to do? Do we have time to do what we want to do, Lisa, between now and the meeting in December?
We
Because we talking
originally-
about more than we talking about more than leave. That's from what Bob's saying. We talking about more than sick leave we talking about more than holiday and vacation.
Talking about all of it.
We're talking about,
Employee
we're
package.
talking, yeah, we're
Yeah,
talking
I'm not
about the
sure
whole
we-
benefit package. So you're talking about us getting back together as a council between now and December meeting.
No, I'm just talking about it being on the agenda for the December meeting. And the reason would being is that come January 1, we will publish our holiday schedule for the year. And we don't have to tie our 2023 holidays to anything. We just have to announce what the holidays are for the year. It's really that simple for 2023.
And I I'm think that it gives us, I'm agreeing with Mr. McIntosh here. It gives us another month to think about what we do and how we use that month is up to us. Yeah, I don't know if we've got enough time to have a retreat or anything like that. I'm not touching on all of that, but it gives us time to discuss it. Another month, we don't need to do anything tonight. We got a month to think about it and to choose what direction we go forward.
Yeah, and it is the holidays, but I would ask that we plan on looking at employee packages in January. Because with what has happened in other municipalities, I foresee people leaving relatively soon, especially our police and fire. I mean, they just really up their benefits.
I don't disagree that we need to look at benefits, but the information that Ms. Wallace provided us, I don't think there's a municipality in the Tri-County area that has more holidays than us. I don't think we're gonna attract and retain employees by whether we have 11, 12, or 13 holidays, and whether if we stay at 12, one of them's a floater. I don't think people, I don't know, I don't think people decide on staying or accepting a job offer based on whether it's 11, 12, or 13 holidays, but I completely agree that we need to look at our overall benefits package.
And I'm agreeing with both of y'all. Let's decide this in December and then set a date beyond that. So is something we need to vote on?
A motion to postpone vote.
Well, I think that we definitely ought to meet before we meet at our December meeting. Or we be doing the same thing we're doing right now at the December meeting. So we need to come up with a date at all of it, half a day, whatever it'll take to meet where we can be in agreement with what we do, or we're gonna be doing the same thing we're doing right now.
On
To do
on whether we
something
have, whether we have 12 or 13 holidays and which ones they are.
Well, we just had a motion and we had an amendment and we didn't come up with anything.
Well, I withdrew my amendment and Mr. Brown withdrew his motion.
And we decided to put it off till December meeting.
No, we haven't decided anything. I withdrew my motion to amend. Mr. Brown withdrew his motion, initial motion. And I'm now moving, I think I have a second, Ms. Meservy, to postpone this issue to the December meeting, with the issue just being which paid holidays are we going to observe in 2023?
So that because we are.
Agree.
You don't actually need a motion.
No, there is a motion in a second. We have to vote on the motion to postpone until,
And I still fully support the June 16th.
Oh, I thought we said we were gonna wait till the December meeting, Bill.
we have to vote on that.
We have to vote on it.
We don't say anything, we vote.
Oh, okay.
So, Mr. McIntosh, you made the motion to postpone this issue to the December meeting.
Somebody
I
second?
seconded.
Is that who seconded?
Okay, you can call for the vote, Mayor.
Yeah. Any more discussion? All in favor of voting for the December meeting, signify by raising your right hand. Vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carried.
Adoption of Town of Somerville, South Carolina Tax Advantaged Bond Compliance Policies and Procedures.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, any discussion? No discussion? All in favor of this, raise signify by raising your right hand, vote aye.
Aye.
Vote likewise.
Discussion of appointments in terms of Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Mayor, if I may speak, since it's a discussion. The reason this came up is we have 3 appointments that were gonna expire in December. At this time, none of the councilmen that appointed those people wish to change that. So that ends that problem. We won't be changing anything. But with us appointing people to committees, that should happen the January after an election. So what I'd like to do, since we don't have to do anything right now, when we come to a discussion, I would like all the committees to be appointed by the councilmen that are elected the following January. That way a newly elected councilman gets to bring in who he wants to, or who they want to. So we don't have to do anything right now.
Well, we have to appoint someone to the positions that are expiring. And Ms. Meservey, correct me if I'm wrong, they expire in the end of the year, December 31st. Which three, and Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee happens to be one of like two or maybe three committees, boards, commissions where each individual council member has an appointment, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what are the three that are expiring in December?
I believe there's actually 4.
Okay,
The mayor's, Mr. Jackson's, Mr. Brown's, and it was, Mr. Bailey.
Yeah.
But then, so that would be Mr. Touchberry.
yeah, I knew that mine wasn't expiring.
My appointment is, I thought, I had to be appointed again. Then Thurman?
You appointed him, but his term expires at the end of this year.
Yeah, I guess what I'm asking for, when we reappoint them in December, we do it for 1 year. And then next January, we can reappoint or whatever, whomever gets elected.
There will be others that will be expiring next December. They're staggered.
Yeah, but it should be, a councilman gets elected, and when he takes office, he can reappoint his council. We can talk about it.
Well, let me ask a question. I'm not sure how you do this. So I'm not going to suggest a how. I'm just going to, this is a what. Can, if. Is it possible to take the current people that are there, all, and extend their terms 1 month till the end of the January, to the end of January versus December, so that we're actually making the appointments going forward in January versus November,
I mean, it'd be a
December?
year and a month.
Anything is possible, but we would have to have an amendment to an ordinance with 2 readings.
Okay.
Right now, our ordinances call for these appointments to these boards and commissions to be staggered. So you have continuity, so you don't have just massive turnover on the boards. So there are 4 up this year, and I'm picking on you, Ms. Meservey, but of the remaining 3 members of the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, do any of them already expire next December 31st?
The remaining 3 are 2023. They all expire next year.
Right. So, it's to answer your question, Mr. Jenkins, yes, it's possible to do, but we gotta amend our ordinances and have 2 readings. In the meantime, though, these 4 folks on this committee, their term's gonna expire December 31st. And just substantively, to Mr. Jackson's point, I think that that's a mistake. I don't think we want to, after the 2023 elections, have the potential for 7 new members of the Pike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee or 7 new members of the Planning Commission. And I do believe there's maybe 1 other board or commission that individual council members have an appointment. I mean, we staggered these terms for a reason, for there to be institutional knowledge and continuity on these boards and commissions, and to actually we want these boards and commissioners and committee members to be, somewhat protected from politics and allow them to exercise independent judgment for the most of them serve for 3 years, I believe, but for the length of their term.
I think it's a discussion for later.
Okay. I didn't know it was on the agenda. I didn't know what it was about.
we had somebody that wanted one of those positions, but
Well, I was under,
Now they
well, I was under the impression, the reason I said that my guy was reappointed automatically, because I was under the impression that it would be a holdover for someone that I had appointed.
What we've done in the past is and it may be why you've appointed someone in the last 3 years, is that, I mean, when a vacancy occurs, I mean, there is a procedure under our ordinances on how to fill, when and how to fill the vacancy. My position is if we don't vote in December for these 4 council members to reappoint or appoint someone new, that come January 1st, there'll be a vacancy. And then the ordinance, the provisions of the ordinance that cover vacancies will have to be followed. So we'll have to re-advertise the positions immediately. So I do think in December, we need to either amend the ordinance before the December meeting. We could have a couple special meetings and amend the ordinance, or we need to follow the ordinance. And in December, the 4 council members who have their appointees expiring, they can either reappoint who they have or appoint someone new. But we've posted these positions. I've gotten a lot of calls and emails from people wanting to be on the committee, and I've had to tell them, thank you for your interest, your involvement, but I only have 1 vote on 1 appointment, and it's not up this time.
GW, do you concur with that?
Well, I'm pulling the ordinance up right now, but no action is taken. So those people continue to hold over for another term.
That's what I understood. It was a holdover, I was approached by a young man, by email, and I think he was here tonight. He was interested in being on the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, and I told him I had a person in there and they were, holding over, that slot was filled. So you're telling me if I'm wrong? I mean, I thought that's the way we're doing it. That happens with a lot of positions much higher than being on the Bicycle and Pedestrian, because people are holdovers, even with the legal system and all that stuff, judges and all that stuff.
What our practice has been, and what our ordinance says, is that on a certain number, and I keep picking on Miss Missouri, but she knows, because it's her job, her responsibility, that a certain number of days before a term expires, that we post the position and invite people to apply, and we receive a certain number of applications. And every year at our December meeting, for various boards and commissions, it's on the agenda, and we go in executive session and we discuss all the applicants, and then we come back out and vote. And if it's the intention of all 4 folks who on this council to reappoint their appointees to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, that's fine, it's their prerogative. But, we have to follow the ordinance. We have to let people apply. If somebody doesn't apply, they can't be reappointed, and we have to vote on it. And we can change the ordinance and have them not be staggered, and say that if any one of us, including, any council member, the mayor, if he leaves office, then, for what he or she leaves office for any reason, then their appointment to this committee evaporates and you start all over. But I think that kind of runs counter to the idea that we want there to be institutional knowledge on these boards and commissions and committees, and we want to segregate, not segregate. We want to stagger these terms to kind of protect these folks that are serving from the whims of politics.
Forgive me, but I thought all the government red tape was in Washington, D.C.
No, and I think we do need to stagger them. I would just like to see us in the future talk about how to make it in line with the elections.
I think what you would do to do that is you would amend the ordinances to have the terms expire, in mid-January, and have reappointments be at the January meeting. There's not an election every year. There's only elections 2 out of 4 years, but the terms would just start sometime right after the January meeting. And
We can talk about it later.
I think
I was trying to hit it off, find out where we were before next month's meeting, but that issue has gone away, so we have time to talk about it. So no action.
Okay.
Authorization to issue a purchase order to TrueNarc in the amount of $34,415.12 for handheld narcotics detectors. Funds to come from Federal Drug Fund. The SPD was awarded with a Burns JAG grant from the U.S. Department of Justice for $14,453 to go towards this device and is reimbursable.
Mr. Mayor, I would move authorization of this purchase order.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Aye, carry.
Approval to accept donation of up to $100,000 to replace tennis courts at Laurel Street Park with pickleball courts. The Parks and Recreation Committee voted to move this item to full council with a recommendation for approval at their meeting on November 7th, 2022.
I'll make a motion that we approve that. Second that, Mr. Mayor.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I do believe that the best use of this Laurel Street facility is to convert it to pickleball, and I certainly am very thankful for the donation of up to 100,000. My understanding is that a very nice, is it 4 courts that will be built for up to $100,000, and it'll be top of the line pickleball courts, whatever that really entails. But I'm concerned that we're going to lose 2 tennis courts in the downtown area that are perhaps underutilized, but they're underutilized, I think, for various reasons. They're underutilized because they haven't been maintained properly. They're underutilized because the layout is such that they really can't be used for really competitive play, for tournament play. There's just not enough room beyond the back line for let's just say serious tennis. But even recreational tennis players don't want to use those Laurel Street parks, those Laurel Street courts, because they're in such bad condition. So, what I would like to have happen, whether I need to amend the motion or not, I would like a commitment, maybe not a binding commitment, but a commitment from this council that we find a way to replace those 2 courts in downtown Somerville. Whether it's adding 2 courts at Azalea, whether it's adding 2 courts at Doty, or a court at each, potentially even a court. Mr. Brown and I talked a long time ago about adding tennis at Wassamasaw Park when we were having problems with the full court basketballs. They had some problems with gambling and drinking and fighting around people. People watching the basketball games at Wassamaw got a little too involved as fans. But I don't want to see us lose 2 tennis courts in the downtown area. So, I'd intended to move to amend any motion to approve this, to approve this on the condition that town staff, that Parks and Recreation staff come to us with a plan to cite and potentially fund replacing these 2 tennis courts in downtown Somerville. Obviously, we would have to find the money either in this year's budget amendment, of this year's budget, or next budget. But I believe that town staff can come to us with a plan for us to figure out where we get the money from. So that will be my motion, to amend the approval to condition it on town staff coming to us with a plan to cite and potentially fund 2 additional or 2 replacement tennis courts in downtown Somerville.
Second.
I don't disagree with you, but if we did not have the $100,000, we would be doing nothing, because there is no money, not even to refurbish. We are in the plans and working with the mayor and Lisa on a facilitated plan. Getting somebody that actually does Parks and Recreation can come out with a 20-25 year master plan. We have like 6 major things we need to do, and we need more tennis courts and et cetera. I, as the chairman of the committee, can't say that we can do that right away. We need a plan and we need money.
Well, it would fall, I was trying to make it clear, it'd still fall back on us. We may or may not have a mid-year budget meeting. I don't think we should have a mid-year budget meeting until we have an audit. But we will have a 2024 budget that we'll be voting on in 8 months. And I understand that we have not funded Parks and Recreation to the level that certainly staff, Parks and Recreation staff, and some folks on council, presumably you, Mr. Jackson, and others, would like. And that'll ultimately be this council's decision to do it at mid-year, do it at 2024 budget or not. But, you know, this $100,000 gift is, in my view, the optimal use of that location at Laurel Street. But I mean, I thought that the representatives from the tennis community were pretty compelling that losing 2 tennis courts in the downtown area was going to be deleterious to tennis in Somerville. I just would leave it to town staff to tell us how and where they would cite the 2 additional courts and maybe suggest to us where the money might come from. But, you know, if we don't vote to approve it, then that's on us.
And I think where the money is on us too, because there is no money in Parks and Recreation. Amy happened to be able to get $100,000 donation. And there's many of us, talked to many council members and myself and citizens that have driven by the tennis courts, and they are mostly empty everywhere. So, I mean, granted, it's not scientific, but I haven't seen that many people playing tennis. The pickleball courts are very often full. And we're playing pickleball inside the gym. So if we get some more pickleball courts, that opens up gym time inside for other facilities. And you're asking for money. I think when we look at what we need to give our employees, Parks and Recreation is not going to be a high priority in the near future. Unless you want to raise taxes some more.
Mr. Jackson, if I might, I think we're kind of between a rock and a hard spot, but I think it is an incredibly poor message to send to a community that says we're going to turn down a donation of this size and magnitude to do something. I think we want the community involved in what we're doing, and maybe we can, when you look at what's going on in Goose Creek, most of that $10 million park is donations. And so to me, that we have a short-term opportunity, which is to turn tennis courts into pickleball courts. I think we've got a longer-term discussion that deals with recreation for our town. And that long-term discussion, to me, to make it simple, is what do we want to be when we grow up? Do we want to be a place that hosts tennis tournaments? Do we want to be a host city for events? Do we want to be a passive park community? I think we need to decide that what we want to be going forward as a community before we decide that we want to commit funds that might go in a direction that might not coincide with that. So
Nothing in my motion to amend would commit any funds for anything. It would come back to, all it would do is essentially instruct staff to come to us with a plan to replace those two courts and to replace them somewhere downtown on a parks facility. It could come back to us and we say, no, we're not gonna do that. But we will, in my estimation, we'll run a surplus in this budget year of somewhere between $1 and $3 million. If we decide that we want to build 2 tennis courts in the downtown area next year, we'll be able to find the money. If we decide we don't want to build 2 courts in the two replacement tennis courts in the town of Somerville next year, then no harm, no foul. We will have 4 pickleball courts at South Laurel. That's all my motion to amend does.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question? Wasn't there a nonprofit being established for Parks and Recreation? Is it fully established yet? Okay. Okay, well, I know that during the discussion we had here several weeks ago, the tennis community was very passionate about the tennis courts, and I'm in agreement with you. I dislike the fact that we do have less tennis courts after this happens, while we do have more pickleball courts. But the $100,000, this is a great opportunity. It's very much appreciated. Have we received any feedback or commitments from the folks who were in the tennis community? I know we had the director who said that they needed to kind of get together and be a part of this more. Okay. But I was just wondering. But anyway, I think it's a great opportunity for the community to come in and help shape our future through some of the donations. And I would love to see the long-term master plan for the opportunities that we could invest in the future. So I'm excited about that.
And Councilman Dutchbury, I agree with everything you just said. There's nothing about potentially, whether through donations or finding the money through the surpluses that I think we all know we're running. There's nothing about potentially replacing these 2 tennis courts that interferes in any way with us accepting the donation, going ahead and building the pickleball, or pursuing some master plan that might take 3, 5, 7 years to implement. What I'd like to see in this council, when we get the information back from staff as far as how difficult or easy it might be to cite them, what the cost might be, we might say, sorry, we can't do it, but I would like to have the information. I'd like to at least have a plan and some information as to how we might replace these 2 tennis courts next year, sometime during 2023, whether with this year's budget funds, next year's budget funds, or donations.
Actually, there is a conceptual plan for tennis courts, many more than 2, maybe adjacent to Doty Field. But we're not there yet. We have to do the strategic plan and find the money. And I'm not willing to tell the tennis people that I'm not willing to give them something that I can't substantially deliver. And I'm not going to ask if I could ask staff to come up with money,
I'm not,
tell Amy to come up with $15 million and let's move. I mean,
I'm not asking her to come, her or anybody to come up with money. Just asking us to report back to us about where you might cite 2 tennis courts and what it might cost and how you might fund it, but it's up to us to fund it.
I agree.
Okay, that's
Mayor,
what my motion does.
and we talked about the building in Goose Creek where Hanahan is about to open theirs also. Or started. I don't know which one.
So there's a motion on the floor, Mr. Mayor, and
Okay.
a second.
That was the motion, miss.
And
And-
there's an amendment with the second as well.
Okay, the amendment, Beth, my notes say that, the motion is to accept the donation with the condition of the staff making plans or presenting plans to replace 2 new tennis courts somewhere in downtown.
It-
Is that correct?
Yes, that's the
Is that this? I want to make sure, I want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a place of obligation
We're not.
to public or otherwise. So if the wording is for staff to come back to us as to potential locations for 2 tennis courts and potential cost for 2 tennis courts. And then council decides if that's what Mr. McIntosh is saying.
That's the
think-
motion that I made and Ms. Gordon Smith
Okay,
second.
Okay. We discussed it enough. All in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.
Don't like making empty promises.
Okay, one no. Okay, now we go back to the original
For the
motion, right?
motion as amended.
Okay. As amended. Okay. All in favor of this, you want to read that, Lisa? Everybody remember what that one was?
Yes,
Okay.
sir, to accept the donation of 100,000. To accept the donation of $100,000 to replace the tennis courts at Laurel Street Park, conditioned upon staff presenting plans to build 2 new tennis courts somewhere in downtown area.
no, that is not,
That's not exactly what the motion.
that's not the motion. The motion is for staff to come back to us with a proposal of where and how much building 2 more tennis courts would cost the town and where they would be located, not,
I thought that
Not
was
a-
what I said.
not what you said
Not
to
in so many
build.
words.
You said to do.
Okay,
We know, we're asking
Send
for
a
information
plan.
from staff,
I got it,
not a commitment.
got it.
Ms. Preserve has it, I'm confident.
Probably who it should have looked at.
Okay,
So the motion as amended, we need to vote on to whether to accept the donation to build pickleball as amended,
that's what we're voting on now, right?
correct?
Okay. All in favor of this, signify by raising your right hand, voting aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion carried.
Next is the summary of the strategic planning sessions.
I will be
How do we
quick.
do that?
Because I see some people squirming around in their seats out there. But we just wanted to provide everyone with a brief summary of the strategic planning meetings that we had a couple of weeks ago. We engaged the McNair Group, David McNair, who facilitated the strategic planning sessions for us. And he started by asking us to complete a survey. All of the department heads and council members completed a survey, and from that survey, priorities were ranked, and those were what we discussed at these meetings. We then held 2 half-day planning sessions on October 27th and 28th, and 4 priorities were identified. And those are a plan for the Dominion property, creation of a capital funding plan, define the role of the Director of Economic Development and fill that position, and develop a plan for staff recruitment and retention. So we also assigned timelines for these goals. For the Dominion property, within 90 days, we're going to conduct an economic development analysis of both the Dominion property and the Berlin G. Myers properties. Both of those are being considered as a future police facility. We will also develop a temporary plan to use the Dominion facility for at least partial use by the Somerville PD. Within 90 days, we are also exploring options with Dorchester County to use the county building as a potential municipal court facility. Within 12 months, we hope to have engaged an architectural and design team to develop the preliminary plans for the police headquarters and municipal court. And the site of those facilities will be dependent on the analysis that hopefully we'll have done in the next few months. Councilman Touchberry and the Facilities Committee will be spearheading those discussions. Under the capital funding plan, within 90 days, and we've already begun work on this, we will identify potential areas of revenue loss and explore the use of specific revenue items that we may be able to allocate to a capital fund. We will also hold meetings with both staff and council prior to our budget meetings to go over the capital improvement plan, so that we know what those priorities are prior to going into those budget meetings. Within 12 months, we hope to have a fund balance policy proposal to present to council that will allocate a percentage of year-end revenues over expenditures to a capital fund. This would be approved annually during the annual budget process. And what that would do is hopefully allocate those funds as committed funds rather than uncommitted fund balance, which is what has been occurring previously. That should give us a better comfort level in utilizing that money for capital needs. We will also create a dashboard that will show real-time revenues and expenditures. And then under economic development, within the next 90 days, we will better define the role and position requirements. There was also some discussion about considering a deputy administrator position along with that role or in connection with that role. So we will be rewriting the job description. And then within the next 3 to 9 months, the mayor and I will reach out to the 3 counties. We're going to discuss any key developments that they have going on and learn what we can do to help assist them with those developments. Hopefully within 9 months, we will hire an economic development director. And then these next items would primarily fall under that person's responsibility, which would be to update and refine a redevelopment plan, focus on the downtown business district, explore development opportunities at the new interchange, and explore property acquisition and partnerships to establish control of key areas for development. And then finally, the staffing, recruitment, and retention discussion. I think everybody recognized that that's something, a priority, definitely for the town council and staff. So within 90 days, we will review and update our recruitment strategies and also conduct an employee survey. And we have just recently amended that survey to include specific questions about benefits. That survey should go out next week. And we will identify the immediate needs. We realize we have compensation gaps, and we know that we will be able to discuss those, or hope that we can discuss those at the mid-year budget meetings that we hope to have in January, late January or early February. And then in the next 6 months, we will continue to hold departmental work sessions to refine recommendations as far as benefit packages that we would want council to consider. And then most, if not all of these items will require additional council approvals. So we will provide periodic updates, but most of these are going to come back to council at some point for further actions or approvals. And I know that at least the feedback I've gotten from the council is that they felt like this process was very positive, and that hopefully we can consider doing this annually, because it really, with everything we've got going on with the town, this really gave us some focus and direction that we could use for the next 12 months.
And just for the public, and all town directors and staff were in the meeting and participated.
And Ms. Wallace, I appreciate you reading that, and thank you for it. One matter I think of clarification, or else I got it really wrong. Going back to the economic development slide, if that's possible. There we go. It's 0 to 90 days, defined role and position requirements, consider deputy administrator position. And then under 3 to 9 months, hire an economic development director. Just for clarification, we did not discuss two positions.
That's correct.
It's whether in the 90 days to determine whether a new economic development director might serve in as high a profile position as deputy administrator.
That's correct. So we'll be working on the
Okay.
job description and that will then go back to.
Okay. I just wanted,
Yeah.
there's something about the way that was arranged that it triggered me just a little bit.
Okay, that was all I had, Mayor.
I know.
Oh.
Okay, public
Next is-
comments are open.
Public comment. I do not have anybody signed up for any public comments.
Mayor, I make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss legal and personnel matters and receive legal advice concerning possible settlement of Mary Mead litigation and personnel matters related to designation of acting administrator during the administrator's absence.
Mr. Mayor, I would move to amend the motion to also include discussion of personnel matter, explicitly the employment of a public information officer, given the vacancy that is going to occur by the end of the month.
Second that.
Okay, we got a second on that. Can we discuss that even though it's not on the agenda?
Take any action on it, I can tell you that.
It would not be my purpose that we take any action tonight. And I understand that now that I'm looking at, well, I don't want to get into all that, but no, that's not, is there an item on the agenda for, action to be taken out of executive session?
If you would make the motion to amend the agenda to add that into executive session, I think we need to amend the agenda.
As opposed to amending Mr. Jenkins' motion. All right. Okay, so can we, Mr. Mayor, I'd move to amend the agenda to add an executive session item for discussion of personnel matter relating to the potential employment of a public information officer, given the vacancy that in that position that will be occurring before the end of the month.
Second.
Okay, motion, any discussion? All in favor of this, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I oppose.
Okay.
I oppose.
So it's a 5-2 vote, which I think is sufficient to amend an agenda, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now do I have to amend? Now I have to amend? I don't have to amend his, well, I do have to amend his motion.
Well, I guess you will, because Mr. Jenkins' motion just had two items actually on.
All right. Well, now I would move to amend Mr. Jenkins' motion to include that third item.
Second.
Okay, motion made second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. On executive session.
So it wouldn't make your ass.
Chris.